In the headlines, fears of a deadly Ebola virus are mounting as the death toll continues to rise in West Africa. Korea is taking steps to prevent the virus from entering the nation. Relief and rescue efforts continue in the southwest of China. Nearly 400 people are confirmed dead after a 6.5 magnitude quake hit the region on Sunday. And with the Cospi enjoying rallies in recent days, some are asking if the Korean economy is breaking out of its slow growth trap. We talked to some experts for answers. Early edition begins now.
I see trees of green, red roses.
늘 남편 먼저,
I see them
늘 자식 먼저.
for me and
레이디 퍼스트라는 말을 믿고 살아온 당신. 오늘만큼은 세상 누구보다 당신이 먼저입니다. 한 분 한 분 특별하게 모시겠습니다.
Excellence in Flight, Korean Air.
It's 6 p.m. here in Korea, August 4th. You're watching Arirang News. I'm Na Hyun-kyung.
And I'm Daniel Chen. Thank you for joining us. And also, thank you for joining us, Hyun-kyung.
Welcome. Thank you.
Well, we begin with the deadly Ebola outbreak on record.
Experts are acknowledging the situation as a crisis, and efforts to contain the virus continue in West Africa.
The Korean government is also taking steps to make sure the virus stays outside its borders. Our Kwon So-ah starts us off.
Too fast to get under control. The Ebola outbreak in West Africa, already the deadliest in history, is spreading at a threatening speed. The latest reports show more than 50 people were infected with the virus from July 28th to the 30th in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. International efforts to contain the virus have accelerated in recent days. African leaders and the World Health Organization are working hand-in-hand on a response plan, while the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has announced it is sending at least 50 experts to the region in the next 30 days. In Korea, the government held an emergency meeting this Monday to discuss the growing health crisis. The health ministry announced that around 550 quarantine rooms will be prepared at 17 hospitals nationwide. Increased monitoring through thermal cameras will take place at Korea's airports, and passengers will be asked to fill out questionnaires about their health. The government has also advised people against traveling to the affected regions and said that the 170 or so Korean residents already there should be restricted from re-entering Korea if they show signs of the disease. The outbreak in West Africa has already killed at least 826 people and has a mortality rate of around 55%. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
And on the other side of the globe, the death toll of China's earthquake continues to rise. Nearly 400 people are confirmed dead after a powerful quake struck China's southern Yunnan province on Sunday. Here's our Shin Se-min with the latest.
A massive rescue operation continues this Monday to find survivors of a strong quake that struck the densely populated city of Jiaotong in China a day earlier, toppling thousands of buildings and killing at least 380 people. So far, the number of injured stands over 1,800, but is likely to rise. The 6.1 magnitude earthquake had the deepest impact on Ludian, a county of some 449,000 people located in China's southwestern Jiaotong prefecture. An estimated 12,000 homes collapsed there. It is still unknown how many people could still be trapped under the debris. China's state-run Xinhua news agency says the earthquake was the strongest to hit the region in 14 years. A major rescue and relief operation is underway with over 2,500 officers and soldiers dispatched to the worst-hit areas carrying tents, food, and excavating tools. The Red Cross Society of China has sent quilts and tents, while Red Cross branches in Hong Kong and Macau are also sending relief supplies. Chinese authorities scaled up their disaster response on Monday to the highest national level. Chinese President Xi Jinping ordered authorities to make all-out efforts to save lives, while Premier Li Keqiang ordered them to provide food, clothes, and temporary housing for those without shelter. The quake struck in a largely agricultural area that is prone to earthquakes. In 1970, a magnitude 7.7 quake in Yunnan killed at least 15,000 people. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Another temporary truce in Gaza. This time, Israel declared a 7-hour ceasefire in most of the Gaza Strip at 10 a.m. local time to allow for Palestinians to inspect their homes and for humanitarian aid to come in. It warned, though, that it would fight back if attacked. Hamas, meanwhile, said it has not agreed to the humanitarian pause. Not covered in the 7-hour ceasefire is the southern town of Rafah, where at least 10 people were killed in a shelling at another UN school sheltering Palestinian refugees. Much of Israel's ground troops are reported to have withdrawn to staging areas in Gaza after it struck nearly 70 targets on Sunday and destroyed the last of Hamas's cross-border tunnels. A Gaza health official said more than 50 Palestinians were killed on Sunday.
Now, the main stock index here in Korea, the Cospi, enjoyed its highest rally in 3 years last week.
But the shifting stock prices show the nation's economy is becoming increasingly dependent on the IT and electronics sector.
That's right. For detailed explanations, here's our Yurian.
The benchmark Cospi broke the 2,080 mark last week for the first time in 3 years. But that's not good news for everybody, as data analyzed by Corporate Tracker CEO Score show that former heavyweights in the traditionally strong petrochemical, steel, and shipbuilding sectors are faring poorly. They used to be among the main building blocks of the Korean economy, but their market cap has slumped in the past 3 years. Market cap for IT companies, on the other hand, jumped by the biggest margins. Market superstars Samsung Electronics, which take up about 15% of overall market capitalization, rose by over 60% during the period. And the world's second biggest memory chip maker, SK Hynix, and Korea's leading online portal operator, Naver Corporation, both saw their market cap jump by over 100%. But the market value of POSCO, Korea's largest steelmaker, shrank by nearly 27% during the period, while that of the world's biggest shipbuilder, Hyundai Heavy Industries, dwindled by over 60%. This has naturally led to a shift in the proportion of market cap by each industry. While the IT, automobile, petrochemicals, and shipbuilding and steel each took up a similar share of the Cospi market cap back in 2011, the market cap is now mainly led by the IT sector, which accounts for more than a quarter of the overall market. Companies in the petrochemical business saw market cap shrink by over half to 6%. Yurian, Arirang News.
Well, the Korean government is very much focused on revitalizing the economy, but many say Korea needs more fundamental and structural reforms to truly achieve that goal.
That's right. Our Hwang Ji-hye had a chance to speak with Tom Byrne from Moody's. He's in charge of credit ratings for the major East Asian economies, including Korea.
The aggressive fiscal policies of Korea's new economic team will get consumers spending again and help build confidence in business over the short term, says Tom Byrne, a senior analyst at credit rating agency Moody's. He questions, however, whether they will bring about the fundamental changes needed to pull the economy out of its low-growth rut.
Over the long run, I would think that other aspects of the policy package would be more important. In particular, the new economic team's focus on economic innovation, such as reducing the debt level of public institutions. There's also regulatory reform, I think, is important over the long run, particularly, a regime that is predictable, less burdensome.
Regarding government measures to tax corporate cash reserves, Byrne said carrots are better than sticks when it comes to policies.
They know that they would get a higher return on a productive investment than they would just by sitting on cash balances.
While the new set of economic stimulus comes amid concerns that the Korean economy might follow in the footsteps of Japan's 20 years of lost growth, Burns says Korea is not the only country suffering from the slow growth trap.
I think just about every economy is facing the prospects that growth will be slower now than it was before the global financial crisis.
About concerns that loosening home loan restrictions could worsen the nation's household debt problem, Burn believes they aren't warranted for now. Hwang Ji, Arirang News.
And for more about the Korean market and the economy, we are joined by the Korea strategist Michael Na from Nomura International. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask with a very vague and open question. What's behind this amazing rally for Korea at the moment?
Well, I think the major factor is the Choi Kyung-won. I think the pro-growth new finance minister, he's driving the market. I think a lot of the investors are quite excited about his stimulus package. And from equity market perspective, especially the dividend policy, I think he wants to boost the dividend yield of a lot of Korean companies that would actually take the market higher from here if he actually delivers.
And you don't think there's any other factor than the Choi Kyung-won factor here for the rally of the Cospi?
Well, Korea definitely depends on the developed market demand. So the U.S. is recovering and the Europe is recovering. China is doing okay. So there's no negative factor. But for Cospi to move up higher, I think it will take more than that. And I think Choi Kyung-won is actually delivering that.
And you did say that the Cospi may reach even the 1,000. And what are some of the reasons for that?
Well, we do think that the Cospi has a potential to reach 3,000 from current level of 2,000. So that would be a 50% move up. And that sounds radical, but we think that if Choi Kyung-won delivers on the dividend policy, then I think the market could reach 3,000. Simply speaking, right now, if Korean companies pay out 50% of their earnings as dividend, then dividend yield would be about 5.2%. That would be very attractive for a lot of the income funds globally. So they will start to come into Korea. And also, even in Korea, a lot of people who are looking for fixed income, I think they will start to invest in Korean equity as well. If that happens, then the market could go up to 3,000 because if you assume that the market requires about 3.5% dividend yield, from 5.2% to 3.5%, it would have to go up about 50%. It's very simple math.
Okay, I have two questions before we let you go. First of all, I'm going to let you look at your little crystal orb and tell us a little bit of a forecast of where we go from here on. It seems like we are reaching really new heights. And also, is there a possibility that are we doing what we do normally in the past Korean history? We try to get there fast, 빨리빨리. And in the process, we do tend to lose something along the way. So could you maybe share your 2 cents on that?
Well, equity market is all about 빨리빨리, right? We tend to price in what has not happened. So we're saying that basically the probability of Choi Kyung-won delivering on his plan is actually pretty good. So that's why market is taking this as a positive sign and pricing into the share price. And I think that if he continued to delivers, then I think Korea market could move up higher. And some of the sectors that you have to watch closely would be banking sector and life insurance and non-life insurance. Those financial sectors should definitely benefit from his expansionary policy. On top of that, dividend policy of Choinomics should help as well.
And just briefly, backtracking a little bit, what has kept the Cospi then to be in a limited range for the past 3 years?
Well, if you look at the Cospi composition, the biggest companies are Samsung Electronics and the Hyundai Motor Group companies, Hyundai Motor, Hyundai Mobis, and Kia Motor. Those companies make up about 30% of the Cospi, but they make up about 45% of Cospi earnings. And they have not been growing. Their earnings has started to come down. Samsung Electronics, smartphone, structural growth is somewhat over, so the margin is coming down. And also, same thing with the Hyundai Motor Group companies, because of the capacity constraints and because of the FX, their earnings aren't really growing these days. So because of that, their multiple has been contracting. But the problem with the Korean companies is that when they do not have growth, the share price could actually go up higher because of dividend, but they're not paying out dividends. So that's why the Cospi has been range-bound for quite some time. So if you have no earnings growth, Cospi will actually stay in this range.
Michael Na, equity market strategist, thank you so much for making time for us today. We do hope to bring you back here as soon as possible, as often as we could.
Thank you for having me.
Business partners face a one-day entry ban.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best. With Na Hyung-kyung and Daniel Che.
Arirang News.
Arirang News. On Early Edition at 6.
In Korean politics, Korea's main opposition party has a new leader, if only temporary. Park Young-sun, the current floor leader of the New Politics Alliance for Democracy, has been named to head the party's Emergency Planning Committee, which was formed after its stinging defeat in the July 30th by-elections. Park will be at the helm until a party convention is held to select new leaders. The party's former co-chairs Kim Han-gil and An Cheol-soo resigned last week over the results of the by-elections, in which the ruling Saenuri Party won 11 of the 15 parliamentary seats that were up for grabs. The chairwoman of Hyundai Group crossed the border into North Korea this Monday morning. Hyun Jung-eun made the one-day trip to the Mount Kumgang tourist resort to attend an 11th anniversary memorial service in honor of her late husband, Chung Mong-hun, who used to operate a cross-border travel business. Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency reports that the visit was to be limited to the services. Neither she nor the 22 Hyundai executives in her delegation had any plans to speak with any North Korean officials. Hyundai Asan operated tours at the Mount Kumgang Resort in North Korea from 2003 until they were suspended in 2008 after a South Korean tourist was shot dead by a North Korean soldier.
Korea's largest automobile group is gaining ground around the globe. Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors sold over 2 million vehicles combined during the second quarter of this year, good enough for a global market share of 9.1%. That's up 0.8 percentage points from the previous quarter and marks the second highest market share ever for the Korean automakers. The rise is being attributed to new models hitting the market like the Hyundai Sonata and Genesis and an increase in car sales in developing nations. Now, the peak summer vacation season has begun here in Korea, and over the weekend, Incheon International Airport set a new record of visitors going in and out of the country. Our Son Jung-in has more.
It's early in the morning, but the departure gate at Incheon International Airport is already crowded with vacationers leaving the country for their summer holidays. And fortunately for them, strong winds and rain brought by this season's typhoons didn't stop flights operating to their normal schedule.
I saw people waiting in long lines at the check-in counter. I couldn't wait that long, so I used the unmanned check-in system.
With the summer holiday season in full swing, the number of passengers using Incheon International Airport reached an all-time daily high over the weekend. It recorded a total of 158,000 passengers on Sunday, breaking the previous record of 156,000 set the previous week. Compared to the record daily number of tourists set last year, the figure represents a 10,000 increase. Experts attribute this recent trend to the surge in low-cost carriers and also to the strong local currency. To deal with the growing number of outbound travelers, the airport has stationed 6 additional security checkpoints and opened its outer parking lot. As the summer peak season continues until mid-August, officials plan to open check-in counters half an hour earlier at 6:30 a.m.
We estimate the daily number of passengers from airlines data to better prepare and provide the best service, especially during peak hours.
Officials advise passport holders to process their documents through the unmanned screening system to make the immigration procedure easier and less time-consuming. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
And competition in the budget airline market is becoming fierce in Asia, including Korea. So the Korean low-cost carriers are looking for new sources of profits, for example, going long haul. The first such airline to do so will most likely be Jin Air. I had a chance to meet with one official there. Take a look. The low-cost subsidiary of Korean Air is gearing up to offer non-stop flights to Hawaii next year. Budget airlines going long distances is still a difficult nut to crack, but Jin Air's senior vice president of PR, Emily Cho, says it's all about putting passengers at ease over safety issues.
Of course, before we can convince them, we have to make sure that our services are ready to deal with the long haul as well. Since it's something new, they have to get used to it. For example, our pilots need 1,000 hours of previous experience to even apply to Jin Air, which is the same as Korean Air. So that shows how much we are dedicated to our safety record.
Jin Air opened its doors for business in 2008, and it took 2 years before it began operating in the black. All 5 low-cost carriers in Korea, as of last year, are making profits, testimony to the continuing boom of the LCC market in Korea, but there's a catch.
Southwest or JetBlue. In the U.S., the main reason why they were able to grow this big is that they were using the minor airports because of cheaper airport fees. But all the airlines are focused between Incheon Airport and Gimpo Airport in Seoul, for example. In China and Japan, because the population itself is big enough, there's a lot larger pool of those maintenance people or flight attendants.
In order to survive in this very tough market, Cho says Jin Air needs to make its name more known to potential customers overseas.
The Korean airlines have a very good reputation among the Chinese people, and we're hoping to kind of bond with them emotionally first, so they want to come to us first instead of us coming to them.
The competition in this market will only get worse, and successfully launching flights to Hawaii will be key in locking down sustainable growth for Jin Air. Now, Korea is still reeling from Typhoon Nakuri, but it seems the peninsula only has a few days until the next one makes landfall here.
It's a super typhoon. It's named Halong, currently positioned near the Philippines, and it's moving in a northwesterly direction.
And could hit Korea's southern island of Jeju by this weekend. Our Kim Min-ji has the details.
Packing strong winds of over 50 meters per second, Super Typhoon Halong is making its way toward the Korean peninsula and is expected to be the strongest typhoon so far this year. The storm, named after a tourist destination in Vietnam, began forming in late July and is currently positioned near the Philippines. The storm is expected to reach Japan's Okinawa by this Friday, and Korea's southern island of Jeju is likely to fall in its path by this weekend.
The typhoon can change its path depending on the contraction or expansion of high pressure in the North Pacific Ocean. By looking at the barometer, the storm will likely affect the peninsula this weekend.
Although it has been moving slowly, the typhoon has intensified along the way. If and when it hits Korea, the damage is expected to be significant. Winds of over 40 meters per second can turn over cars. The approach of Halong comes after Typhoon Nakuri struck the south of Korea this past weekend, killing at least 10 people and damaging several buildings. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Okay, we will certainly be keeping our lookout for this typhoon, which is supposed to be the third strongest in the Pacific so far this year.
Well, let's all hope for the best. Now let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center for more details. Michelle?
Good evening, and as we just heard, Typhoon Halong is making its way slowly towards Korea, and we're expecting to hit Hokkien, Japan this Friday with indirect influence on southern parts of Korea by this weekend. So do be sure to check back in throughout the week to make sure you're not caught off guard. Now, until then, we'll be looking at clear skies. Now, most of the rain from today should mostly clear out by tomorrow morning, meaning sunny conditions are in the forecast, which also means hotter temperatures again. Some areas will even get into the 30s tomorrow. Now, going over to our tomorrow's readings. Seoul will start off the Tuesday morning at 25 before reaching up to 32 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will peak up to 32 and 30 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island tops over to 31, Dokdo hits 29, while Mangungang tops to 31. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for that, Michelle. And that's a wrap for us. Thank you for staying with us. This is Daniel Cho, wishing our viewers in different time zones outside of Korea a wonderful day.
And I'm Na Hyun Kyung. Have a great rest of the evening and do join us again tomorrow.